At the very start of the 2020 pandemic, the United Nations suddenly launched a new website, which was called United Nations New World Order, with this screen as a bold statement. The World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum publicly stated that it was their full intention to make this tyrannical New World Order permanent.
I want to be straight with you. There will be no return to the old normal for the foreseeable future. I repeat, there will be no return to the old normal for the foreseeable future.
So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again in how we are used to normal, in the old fashion. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
So if their publicly stated plan was to make this permanent, why then did it stop? What happened? Who stopped this nefarious plot? We get the answer from a very fascinating man that I met in California. His name is Chad Vivas, and he's one of the most exceptional and courageous classic artists of our time.
Trump stopped the New World Order. He's stopping the New World Order right now. And the biggest proof to me is seeing warp speed stop the FEMA camps. And the biggest proof to me is seeing warp speed stop the FEMA camps. As someone who's known about the New World Order and the FEMA camps and the whole scamdemic agenda for 17 years, it's clear as day. And I know a lot of people that just found out about the scamdemic in 2020. They just found out about the New World Order then. It's very scary and it's very overwhelming. It's a lot to learn all at once. And I can see how people might think it looked like Trump is in on it. He released the vaccine. But releasing it quickly is exactly what stopped the FEMA camps. And the fact that we're here today, still unvaccinated, not in the camps, is like just the proof to the success of its strategy.
Yeah.
If there are people who are non-compliant, there are definitely laws and public health powers that can quarantine people in mandatory settings.
I think regional quarantine facilities are going to be needed into the future. We'll also need it for unvaccinated people.
We've just been told from higher up where to take you, and that's all that there is.
The New World Order, our army comes marching in, partnering with police to help enforce the country's tough new quarantine laws.
What is this New World Order? Why is it so dangerous? Who's behind it?
It's basically the wealthiest elites in the entire world that own all the world's resources. They think the world's overpopulated, and they think there's too many of us, which is not true. You can prove it. Basically, they wanted to depopulate the world by more than 80%. As you can see on the Georgia Guidestones, it says maintain humanity below 500 million. And that's a lot less than 8 billion people on the planet that they want to achieve and strive for. And you have they say it openly. There's a video of David Rockefeller speaking out at the UN talking about overpopulation and how we need to stabilize the population. Rockefeller's created a population council, and these people openly state that the world's overpopulated, and then they also happen to be the biggest proponents of vaccines and chemical injections into people. Yeah. So their plan was to force vaccinate humanity. They were going to create a pandemic type scenario where they needed to scare the public into thinking they need to accept these new totalitarian measures to keep them safe. It's the same thing as the Patriot Act. Oh, we need to take away your freedoms to keep you safe. And their plan was to roll out a mass vaccine campaign. And this is something that I was learning in 2007 and 2008. And we all thought it was going to happen with swine flu back then. And what they were going to do is there was laws being introduced at the time that if you didn't take the vaccine, there would be a force with police presence. And if you refused the vaccine, you would be put onto a bus and taken to a quarantine camp. And they were known as FEMA camps. And these FEMA camps all over the country. And basically, if you didn't take the vaccine, you would never be heard from again. You would just disappear. And then they had this whole new form of society that they had ready for the whole world, and it was outlined in a document that's now referred to as the Lockstep document, but I think it was called Scenarios and Technology for the Future, released by the Rockefeller Foundation, where they talk about a more tighter form of top-down authoritarian government. There was going to be biometric surveillance, digital IDs, which we later saw with Bill Gates and his ID 2020. And it's crazy because this is what they call you a conspiracy theorist for talking about this, even though it's public information. You can go to MIT's own website. They talk about Bill Gates' project to create quantum dot dye tattoos, where they were going to create literal barcode tattoos, where they would be scannable with a smartphone that stores your vaccine and your medical history, and it would be connected to a digital ID, to your Facebook, to your driver's license, your social security, and it was going to be implemented with vaccines. You would get a barcode tattoo. And this is everything that's been talked about for a long time. Patriots like Bill Cooper, who was actually killed for speaking out against this. He wrote a book called Behold a Pale Horse. He was a naval intelligence officer with Q clearance that became a whistleblower and started speaking out on everything he found out.
What is Q clearance?
Q clearance is the highest level of clearance basically that exists in the government. So Bill Cooper had Q clearance. He had the highest access to all top secret and classified information, and he was horrified by what he saw, and he became a whistleblower speaking out against the New World Order and how they had this plan to depopulate humanity and round up dissenters into camps. They were going to suspend the Constitution, use continuity of government as a way to suspend the Constitution and round people up into camps. And at the time we had Bush, we had Obama. There was no hope. We didn't have a Trump. We had nothing. There was no hope. It was a completely bleak, terribly hopeless situation. And it was a very scary time because you had the Patriot Act. And they were passing laws that they could disappear people without due process and arrest you as a terrorist or as under the Patriot Act. There was no more, they would take away your rights. So back then it was such a terrifying thing, and you sounded crazy trying to talk about this because back then nobody believed me when I tried to tell people and sound the alarm. Hey, they want to create a fake pandemic. They want to force vaccines on people. Bill Gates wants to lower the population. No one believed me.
No.
Everyone thought I was totally nuts. No one believed me.
No.
Everyone thought I was totally nuts. I mean, and even when I first met my wife, she didn't believe me. She's like, wow, that's really out there. And I didn't push it on her, but when it finally happened, a lot of people in my life that I told about this, when the scamdemic came around, 2020, when it happened, people were like, oh my God, this is what you were telling me about for 15 years. People were like, oh my God, this is what you were telling me about for 15 years. So it really finally happened. But something incredible happened because, we have a president like Trump who opposed mandates. He opposed war. He opposed the military-industrial complex. And the fact that somebody would oppose mandates was unthinkable. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, they both agree on the war. They might disagree on smaller surface issues, but they both agree on war. They both agree on mandatory vaccines. You have somebody like Trump coming in, opposing the wars, opposing military-industrial complex, exposing the fake news, which was unthinkable in itself. And people take that for granted, and it's become a meme. The fake news. But that's a really big deal because then the Mockingbird CIA media is their biggest arm of propaganda. It's a propaganda machine. And that is how they brainwash the masses, is to follow an opinion. I mean, if you control all the news corporations, you control the opinion of the country.
I'm trained in media. I have worked with radio and television, newspapers, magazine, books, websites for decades. I'm from Europe. Back in Europe, that's what pointed my attention to Trump. I have never been interested in politics because I knew it's all clowns. They're all criminals. They always lie as their first nature. There is no honest politician, that's what I thought. But as a media expert, I saw how all the mainstream news media all around the world, in Europe, and in America and Asia and Africa, they all were deployed simultaneously to incite an unprecedented, this has never happened in the history of this world, to make sure that everybody living on the earth would hate Trump. And I know from my background in media that they only attack their enemies and they will always praise their servants. So when people say Trump is part of this, blah, blah, I'm like, use your brain, dear people. These guys have deployed everything they could to destroy him, to prevent him from becoming president in 2016. Trump has exposed, and I'm going to point at this hammer here, the hammer of Thor. He has used the hammer of the word of his mouth, the truth, to smash the number one grip of these elites on all of mankind, which is the news media.
And I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people. Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news.
Sir.
And we're running against a very dishonest media.
The public doesn't believe you people anymore. And it's frankly disgusting the way the press is able to write whatever they want to write. The fake news says I'm not campaigning very hard. I say they are stupid and corrupt.
You know, the press is really the biggest problem of all. The fake news, I call it, is the biggest problem of all.
Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
What is the Patriot Act?
The Patriot Act is when they used the events of 9/11, which they helped create with Israel, and that's a whole other story, but they used the Patriot Act to say, hey, to protect your freedoms, we need to take them away. So they took away your Fourth Amendment, they took away your privacy, they took away so many of your constitutional rights where they can just arrest you without due process. The Patriot Act was one of the first big steps into removing the constitutional rights of Americans. Back then, conservative Christian Republicans were the scariest people, because these were the people that were being brainwashed to go along with the Patriot Act, to go along with removing your rights, and they were supporting the wars for George Bush. And then when you have Trump come along, he woke up the conservative Christian Republican base of our country.
Masks, no masks, everything, you can do all you want, but you know, you still need help from the boss. He said, who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ. And let me look up and I'll say, and it's not even close.
Wow. And this is the majority of the country. So he woke up America. The majority of the country is conservative, Christian, Republican Americans. And he woke them up to the fake news media. Don't believe the news. They're lying to you. The wars are all based on lies. Bush lied. These are all just the military-industrial complex. He started speaking out at the base, root issues of everything. And it woke up the majority of the country. And then now you have conservative Christian Republicans now awake to the New World Order. It's become common knowledge. And that was just unthinkable back then.
Wow.
And it's incredible to see how 2020 has come along and it's woken up the entire public to what their real plans are.
Then we come to warp speed. What was the real plan with the pandemics, with the lockdowns, and why did Trump release those vaccines?
Yeah, I mean, people don't even have any idea what Trump stopped from happening with warp speed. They needed to create a great reset. And this thing they used to call the New World Order, that used to be like a theory, and it was kind of unverified, although you could verify it yourself by looking into it. They started saying openly with the Great Reset. They put it on the World Economic Forum Twitter page. You'll own nothing, you'll be happy. We need to reset the world system. I mean, they started becoming really bold and openly saying it.
8 predictions for the world in 2030 by the World Economic Forum. You will own nothing, and you'll be happy. Whatever you want, you will rent. And it'll be delivered by drone. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better.
So what they needed is they needed a destroyed economy. They needed wars to destroy the economy. That's one of the biggest things. They create camouflage to destroy the economy and to reset society. They've done it many times with World War I, World War II. They created a step toward world government with the UN and the World Health Organization. And Trump defunded the World Health Organization, which was something that I was very aware of back in 2008 with the swine flu. They were pushing the forced vaccines, and Trump removed funding from the WHO. That was unheard of.
I'm instructing my administration to halt funding of the World Health Organization while a review is conducted to assess the World Health Organization's role in severely mismanaging and covering up the spread of the coronavirus. Everybody knows what's going on there.
The significance of President Donald Trump defunding the World Health Organization is absolutely unfathomable. because this private organization is at the very heart of the New World Order. Their plan was to use pandemics as the excuse to destroy the world economy through many years of lockdowns and remove all rights, freedoms and private possessions from humanity. Trump defunding the World Health Organization and ending the membership of the United States was a devastating catastrophe for the New World Order.
So when 2020 came along, it was like, oh my God, here it is. They're really doing it. They pulled the trigger and they're going for it. This is their big plan.
Yes.
And so here we go. All these people that I knew that used to think I was crazy, now they were like, oh my God, this is everything you were talking about. This is what Chad was talking about. They're doing it. People started coming to me asking questions like, what's happening? What are they going to do? So what they wanted to happen is they wanted everybody locked down. They wanted to lock down totalitarian, authoritarian society, as we all saw. They started introducing authoritarian measures, telling you where you can go, when you're allowed to go outside, how you can breathe. The government doesn't have the right to restrict your breathing and give you a dress code for your face. That is so overtly totalitarian and just inflicts upon human rights in just the most blatant way, like to restrict your breathing. It's ridiculous. But so what they wanted to do is they wanted us locked down for 6 to 12 years. And you had Anthony Fauci and Gates and all these people saying, it's going to take 6 to 12 years at least for a new vaccine, and this is going to be the new normal. This is the new normal. New normal meant New World Order.
Today is the first full day of the New World Order. Outdoor gatherings are limited to 2 people.
So we've got to accept that this is the New World Order.
We will be looking at what contact tracing looks like in the New World Order.
You're going to have a totalitarian society, and everyone needs to accept it because it's going to be a while before we can create a new vaccine. And it won't be safe to open up and go into open society until we have the vaccine. And as we know, the lockdowns were destroying the economy. For some reason, all these mom and pop stores and grocery stores and hardware stores, everyone had to close down. But Walmart, Home Depot, same kind of store can stay open. So there was a transfer of wealth happening between small businesses and big corporations. And a big transfer of wealth did happen, but it was going to be complete.
Yeah.
Like there would be no surviving small businesses left. Every single shred of the economy would have been destroyed. And there would be no more functioning economy left. Nobody in business, everyone would be destitute. And everyone would be begging for help, for a nanny state. So that's what they do. They create problem, reaction, solution. So they had a solution that they were going to roll out, and it was going to be the Great Reset, the New World Order. You're going to have a barcode tattoo to be safe, so that you can have your vaccine passport scanned with a smartphone. And if you didn't take the vaccine, you'll be taken to a quarantine camp and never heard from again. Yes. And the CDC had documents out. They called it the shielding approach. They called them green zones. They were these quarantine camps, and they talk about these people. I mean, I'll show you the documents, but they said they're going to need psychological help for loss of movement and freedom. I mean, they openly say that they were going to involuntary quarantine people. So by Trump rushing the vaccine at warp speed, what it did is it ended their excuse for the lockdowns, and that ended their excuse to destroy the economy and to finish the transfer of wealth, which would have been the nail in the coffin. So the other thing of what it did is it forced it to be released under EUA, Emergency Use Authorization. They could not legally force it because they needed it to be FDA approved so that it could be enforced door to door with police enforcement, and otherwise you'd be taken to a quarantine camp. So by Trump rushing the vaccine at warp speed, it ended their excuse for the lockdowns. It stopped them from being able to finish the transfer of wealth, and it forced them to release it under EUA, so it could not be physically forced. He also packed the courts with constitutional judges. So the judges that knocked down the mask mandates for airline travels and that knocked down Biden's unconstitutional workplace vaccine mandate, those were Trump-appointed judges. Those mandates that Biden installed were not able to stick. There's a multifaceted death knell to their plan. Trump tried to tell people to take hydroxychloroquine. He tried to tell people about ivermectin. He cured himself without a vaccine. He told people hydroxychloroquine cures this flu.
The thing that we bought a tremendous amount of is the hydroxychloroquine, which I think, as you know, it's a great malaria drug. It's worked unbelievably. It's a powerful drug on malaria. And there are signs that it works on this, some very strong signs.
And what did they do? They responded by making it illegal. They made it illegal. You couldn't even prescribe it, even though it's a known medication that was used for 50 years plus, very safely. So Trump is up against a weaponized media that's going to manipulate anything he says and make it into some type of nefarious thing. And the thing I was going to say is that the people that were demanding a vaccine, there was no stopping it. There was no stopping a vaccine from coming out because people were demanding it. I see people to this day at the gym wearing a mask. They can't even breathe. And it's like, I'm looking at a traumatized victim that's been like tortured. It's like, it's psychological abuse. And so people were so traumatized with psychological abuse, mass formation psychosis, they would just believe anything and they needed it to feel safe. So there was no stopping. If Trump tried to stop a vaccine, that only plays into their agenda to keep the lockdowns. So he had to release the vaccine to people that wanted it. But what we had unprecedented that a president for the first time ever opposed mandates. He never mandated the vaccine. Not only did he not mandate it, he said people should never be forced.
They want to restart the COVID hysteria so they can justify more lockdowns, more censorship. These are bad people. These are sick people we're dealing with. But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates. And we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates.
And I'll not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
If you have a vaccine mandate, from kindergarten through college, you don't get anything. You don't get anything. I will also continue my long record of standing up to Big Pharma by creating a special presidential commission to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in childhood diseases, autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and other chronic health problems.
So now this plan has been fully exposed to not just America, but to the world, because you don't have all these dissidents that would have been rounded up and disappeared. Everyone's been able to be vocal. And even though we were censored on social media, Trump created the new social media. He created True Social. We had Elon Musk open up the reins of free speech on X. And so people have been able to speak out against this, and their plan has been fully exposed. Everyone was able to see what they did in China. Everyone's able to see what they did in Canada and Australia. You've seen the quarantine camps. We've seen the bills where they have involuntary quarantine on the docket. Everyone's already distrusting the media. It's woken up the entire country to what their agenda was. And now everyone knows about the Great Reset. Everyone knows about the New World Order. At least the majority of people do. And this is fully known and exposed.
Chad's paintings have been put on display during several large events with the sons of Trump and General Flynn. Recently, Chad gifted one of his artworks to President Trump, who had personally expressed great interest in them.